folks, we're going to be starting in on part 2 of the MF14 revamp here, and I figured I'd show you guys something really quick before I put the engine back in. Right now I'm just working underneath the dash, trying to get everything greased back up and in working order. I just greased the U-joints in the shaft. I pulled the shaft off of the spline from that's a Sunstrand hydrostatic pump. I got those all greased up, and I greased and oiled a lot of the mechanisms for the drive and the brake pedal and everything else under here. But while I was under here, I was going to remove this voltage regulator, and unfortunately what Massey did was they made it so these bolts were hidden underneath the side dash panel, so you had to pull the whole side of the dash off just to get the voltage regulator off, which isn't the most convenient thing, but it's not the worst because it is kind of nice to have access to all the hydraulic valves and everything else on the side. And what I also noticed too is they didn't put much for grease fittings on here. They got one on the drive shaft. They don't have one on this. I would assume it would be like a pitman arm for the steering. They don't have them on the front axle. They don't have them on the center point of the front axle. So I'm going to have to pull these spindles off and get everything greased before the engine goes back on here. That way it's all taken care of and ready to go. But I just figured I'd show you guys that. So I'm going to get this voltage regulator changed out, finish cleaning out some stuff underneath here, and then we'll be ready to put the engine back into this thing. Everything's all set underneath the dash and all buttoned back up, so now it's time to drop the engine into this thing. Engine went back in nice, of course. Everything's all bolted down and ready to go. I ended up changing out my flywheel screen bolts with actual 7/16 bolt heads. That way it's easier to get the wrench on them. So right now I'm just going to take care of a bunch of small stuff before I go too much further on this. I know the power wire coming down from my voltage regulator is split. That's going to have to get redone. Throttle and choke cables have to get taken care of. I also have to find another fuel pump too, because this has a bad check valve in it and it's pushing fuel out of the inlet when it's running. So I'm going to have to pull another pump off of something else. I got to take a look at the wiring underneath the dash and just some other miscellaneous stuff. So I'm going to get some of that taken care of, and then I'll check back with you guys. I figured I'd show you guys this. I just pulled the brake drum off of here, and as you can see, the Woodruff key is just off to one side like that. It's stuck. I didn't have any brakes on this tractor because the drum was loose, but after years of somebody driving this thing around with a loose brake drum, as you can see, it ate out the whole inside bore on the brake drum. At least the first half inch of it at least is all chewed out from that keyway going around in there, and this thing not riding on the shaft. So I thought that was almost kind of impressive. I've never seen anything like that before for wear, and I'm gonna have to go up on one of my parts transmissions for Peerless and see if I can find another brake drum. If not, I think there's just enough keyway where I can replace the set screw and still use this one. Well, we're just about ready to take the Massey down off the lift and get it out into the driveway to fire it up. So I got some stuff taken care of underneath the dash. I got some new battery cables on here, or good used ones at least, because I'm not going to be using a top post battery, so I got those changed out. I also got my gas tank all rigged up, and this was the tank that somebody had put into it because the original metal one was missing. So I figured I'd still use it, so I made some brackets for it that are spring loaded out of some coat hangers, and that holds it down real nice and tight so it won't move around. I got some new fuel line on there, fuel filter, fuel pump is all taken care of. I also got my grill all welded up this morning. It was broken over here on the side and flopping around, so I got that taken care of, along with the mesh inside. That's all straightened out, so it actually cleaned up fairly nice. And right now, like I said before, the front end of this does not have any grease fittings on it, so I just pulled the spindle off of this side, and I'm going to drill out this front axle for grease fittings. That way I can just take care of it while it's up here on the lift and get it done while I can. So the MF14 Massey Ferguson is finally back up and running again. There's a couple of things that I got to finish up on it. Electrical wise, either the key switch or the solenoid is dead, so I've been starting it with a screwdriver today. So that's going to have to get taken care of at some point, and the engine oil is going to have to get dumped again after I run it for a while and try to mix up some of the sludge that's in there. But aside from that, it runs nice, it drives great. High range really moves along on this thing. I was pretty surprised, so obviously enough with the hill, it'll be staying in low range for the most part. But the plan for this is to build a tow truck for all the garden tractors around here, and I think I had mentioned it with the Aaron's S16 revamp from a while back last year. But the problems with that was the 3-point hitch wasn't strong enough to lift much. That was out past the back of the garden tractor, and whereas this hitch I know will be able to lift it because I stuffed the arms underneath a case 444 that's in the driveway for repair, and it yanked the front end right up without a problem. So I think it'll work with this. And I already have some of the hitch built over here. As you could see, this piece those would go in where your arm is, and then the tongue comes out, and I have to build a fixture that comes out here and that swivels like so. It'll be easier to explain once you guys see it being built. So anyways, hopefully within the next month I can start in on that. Work is just so happens to be picking up again, because now that we've gotten a little bit warmer weather here in New England, people are starting to pull their equipment out. So the main thing is this thing's running and it's a usable tractor again, and then as time goes we'll see about getting that 3-point hitch tow truck built, and it'll definitely be a handy rig around here with moving all the garden tractors. So anyways folks, there you have it.